Welcome to the Exploring Bhakti podcast. Most people think Bhakti just means devotion, but it's so much more. In this episode, we explore the ancient path of love that transforms the heart and fulfills the soul's deepest need. The word Bhakti is a Sanskrit word that's difficult to translate because there isn't an exact corresponding word in English. And to complicate things, the word has many meanings. So it's no wonder we might have trouble getting a grip on what Bhakti is. Bhakti is a noun, it's a verb, it's a tradition, a school of thought, and a yoga system with a sophisticated metaphysics and a thorough methodology for spiritual enlightenment and awakening. And then we also have the Bhakti Movement, which was an Indian spiritual renaissance between the 6th and the 16th centuries. So let's break things down a bit. I'll start with a definition of the word. Bhakti comes from the Sanskrit root bhaj, which means devotion, love, to give and receive, or serving. It's often translated as devotion or love, but most appropriately as loving devotional service. What kind of love and devotion and service are we talking about? If you're fully devoted to your sport, art, or work, are you engaged in bhakti? If you love and serve your children, partner, friend, community, nation, or the earth, do you have bhakti? As valuable as these things are, they're not necessarily bhakti. Our conventional expressions of love and devotion are rooted in our inherent capacity for bhakti and can be expressions of our love and devotion to the divine. They can also be mere egoic emotions, which are not yet bhakti. Bhakti is sacred love, an absolute, ever-increasing, unconditional love that is exchanged between a lover and the beloved when the lover is the soul and the beloved is the original conscious person, our source and divine friend. Let me pause for a moment to define the words divine and love. Sometimes we use these words to refer to something that is fabulous or wonderful, or perhaps beautiful, as when we say, that meal was simply divine, or I love music. But by divine, I'm speaking of transcendence, or that which is beyond our normal perception and experience. And love, when referring to bhakti, is not the love we're familiar with in this world. Real love doesn't have an opposite. It never turns into hate or distrust. Never. It's completely unconditional and always seeks the happiness of the beloved. True love can only deepen and broaden. It will never fail or betray us. And of course, such love is only possible with a perfect object of love, which I'll be speaking about in an upcoming episode. So the phrase I use, divine love or sacred love, defines bhakti, and it refers to unconditional, pure spiritual love. It's a wise love, a love that is emotional but grounded in the truth of reality. That's reality with a capital R. It's a spiritual state of being that is supra-mundane, and it's the glue that holds together the deep eternal bond between the finite individual self and the infinite self. When we examine mundane love, we find it's fickle, it changes, and it can betray the lover. Such love, though it can be hypnotizing and nourishing for a time, cannot entirely satisfy us. It's conditional and tends to be self-serving to one degree or another. We're familiar with that kind of love and know that it brings pain as well as pleasure. Without seeing things clearly, our attempt to love can be weak, shaky, or collapse all too easily, and we've all experienced this. This happens because we don't know our true self or the very one who loves and needs to be loved. And we approach love with the desire, however gross or subtle, to be personally gratified. We haven't understood that real love wants to serve selflessly and unconditionally. And we don't understand that such undying love is only possible with a pure, soft heart. In other words, pure love requires a transformation of character. Perhaps take a moment to call to mind your experience of love, both your love for others and their love for you. How often is it completely unconditional. Yet Bhakti explains that it's unconditional, pure love that is the deepest need of the self. This love is Bhakti. So we have a definition of Bhakti, but we should also know what is not Bhakti. Well, first, it's not a mere sentimental attitude. It's a well-educated, wise love that perfectly harmonizes our head with our heart. Second, Bhakti's love is backed by practical, sustained action that has been inspired by permanent transformation of consciousness, character, and behavior. Bhakti is a path of action. The transformation of the heart that the path of Bhakti offers is rooted in concrete, disciplined spiritual practices, and its deepest level, Bhakti is a transcendental state of being and the inherent nature of our true self. And it's cultivated through spiritual practices that elevate us beyond the illusions and ignorance of our own mind. Bhakti wants to purify our love and give us the ecstatic experience of sacred love by turning our attention to the perfect object of love, or the divine. Okay, we now have a definition of Bhakti. To continue, let's look at what else the word Bhakti refers to. There's the Bhakti Movement, the Bhakti Tradition, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti as divine love, and Bhakti as a spiritual potency. Let's go through this list. The Bhakti Movement was a renaissance in India that swept the continent from the 6th to the 16th century. It was sparked and then set ablaze by many mystics who demonstrated the vibrant life of a direct relationship and experience of the divine through song and dance. They revitalized the Bhakti tradition with their message of universal brotherhood, religious tolerance and inclusion, and they encouraged sacred activism through social reform, service, and charity. While the European Renaissance sought evolution through rational thought and humanism, India's Bhakti Renaissance pursued liberation through the inner transformation of the heart with Bhakti's love, song, humility, and surrender to the Supreme. I'll be sharing a separate episode that's dedicated to this interesting, soulful Renaissance. So next is the Bhakti Tradition, which are the schools that teach Bhakti Vedanta. The teachings I present here at Exploring Bhakti are from the Bhakti lineage called Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and I'll cover more details about this and other lineages in an upcoming episode. Now, the phrase Bhakti Vedanta is the name of the teachings of Bhakti. Vedanta is a school that explores the nature of reality, the self, the relationship between them, and how we can awaken from the illusion and ignorance born of our association with the powerful material energy. The teachings are grounded in the metaphysics and philosophy of a massive body of ancient wisdom texts, and we'll direct awareness to them in a separate episode. The Bhakti teachings don't just present theory or prescriptions. They guide us in a genuine spiritual transaction that is informed by knowledge of the nature of reality and gives us a personal, first-hand spiritual experience of the true self and our divine other. We don't have to wait for confirmation of its theories at death, nor do we need to blindly trust. Rather, while living, we can experience the truths of Bhakti because Bhakti is a living wisdom school, a lifestyle, a way of being, and a state of consciousness in the here and now. We can have direct experience of our true self and live from the spiritual integrity of ourself if we take up the practices proposed by the Bhakti teachings. The practices meet us right where we are and guide us how to engage with the world. And with the knowledge, we're given a vision. We see that we're part of the whole, that everything is interrelated as one family. We learn how to skillfully, lovingly navigate reciprocal relationships with others, nature, and the Supreme. In these relationships, we're called to expand our thinking and improve our behavior. This can be done quickly when we stop viewing ourselves as the person at the center of the world around which everything and everyone is meant to serve and satisfy. Instead, we place our source, the sweet absolute, at the center of our lives. Then we come into harmony with ourselves, others, and nature, which greatly reduces the burdens we've been carrying. In addition, a bhakti practice frees us from other illusions of the false self and gradually elevates us to sacred love of the Supreme Self. As we'll learn in this series, this pure love is the ultimate need of the self. Bhakti Yoga is the yoga practice of bhakti. It's sometimes called the yoga of devotion, the yoga of love, the path of loving devotion, or the science of devotional service. Bhakti Yoga is one of the 4 yogas mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, which was one of the most authoritative texts of the classical yoga tradition. Now, Raja Yoga, or the path of meditation, is the source of the asanas and pranayams taught in yoga studios today. Jnana Yoga is the path of philosophy or contemplation, and Karma Yoga is the path of selfless service. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita says that bhakti is the best of all yogas, and the other yogas need to borrow from bhakti to ensure the success of the practitioners on those paths, since without love for the divine, knowledge and action cannot reach their highest expression. Therefore, I call bhakti the heart and soul of yoga. The Bhakti Yoga methodology has been used for millennia by seers, sages, and mystics to know the self, achieve peace, answer life's pressing questions, realize our knowing and blissful nature, and reconnect with our divine source in the joy of mutual love, which brings the highest bliss. Now let's consider when the word bhakti is used to refer to sacred love, which is called prema in Sanskrit. When it's used in this context, we're referring to the ultimate goal that Bhakti Vedanta, the Bhakti Tradition, and Bhakti Yoga offer us. As we've heard, bhakti is the absolute sacred love between the lover and the beloved, when the lover is the soul and the beloved is our source, divine friend, the sweet absolute. Therefore, the ultimate goal of bhakti is divine love for our source. Bhakti invites us to a tangible, personal relationship with our loving divine friend who sits in our heart alongside us and who has been patiently waiting for us to turn to face him and be happy. It is also true that bhakti refers to a spiritual energy. Bhakti itself is a spiritual force. It has immense power. We have experience of the power and influence of nuclear energy and gravitation, for instance. But these forces don't come close to the power of bhakti. The spiritual energy is conscious and is the power and potency that rules the uncreated world, and it's an unchecked and uncheckable force. Bhakti is that energy. In its pure form, bhakti is a fully surcharged, undiluted spiritual energy that is the absolute and single deriving force of the world of spirit, or the world of consciousness. Bhakti is condensed spirit. It's the singular substance we require for our well-being and nourishment. Without it, we are malnourished and languishing precariously with the material disease of ignorance and illusion, seeking real food so that we can return to healthful living. In contact with bhakti, the Atma can evolve and take its place in its homeland. Okay, now, since bhakti refers to prema, or divine love, and is also the name for spiritual energy, we can understand that the essence of spiritual energy is divine love. It's the spiritual energy that descends into our heart and makes the practice of bhakti successful. Because of its supreme power, bhakti easily purifies and controls the mind and spiritualizes the senses, which allow us to perceive the soul's senses and activate our innate spiritual intelligence. A bhakti practice shows us how to culture divine love even as we engage in our normal activities. Many Eastern spiritual practices require the practitioner to renounce the world and perform austerities to become detached and transcend the mind and body. But bhakti is different. We don't renounce the world, but connect everything with the sweet absolute. A bhakti practice gives us a direct link to spirit, transforms us at our core, eradicates the problem of karma and death, and quenches the thirst of our hearts. It's the universal call of the heart, because divine love is the innate nature of the self, the full expression of consciousness or spirit, and the essence of all spirituality. Stated another way, the spiritual energy of divine love is present in a bhakti practice, and this energy is the only means to lift us from the illusory bonds of the material world. Divine love is eternal, ever fresh, ever increasing, ever present, pristine, unwavering, and unconditional. It gives us the most intense ecstasy because it completely immerses the self in the natural condition, which is Sat Chit Ananda, being, consciousness, and bliss. Let me restate that point because it's a subtle but very important point, and it's the unique characteristic of bhakti. Bhakti practices are directly infused with divine energy. In a bhakti practice, we place ourselves in a receptive position to receive mercy from the spiritual energy and our source. Some have compared a bhakti practice to a hungry person eating a wholesome meal. With every bite, the person will be nourished, their hunger will gradually dissipate, and they'll feel satisfied eventually. Similarly, through a bhakti practice, a practitioner will make a direct connection with the self and the superself. Their heart will be purified, and they'll experience joy and freedom. A bhakti practice establishes us in our true self and connects us with our nourishing source, the root and ground of our being, who is beauty, truth, and joy personified. In contact with our source, we're filled with knowledge and unbounded, real happiness. Spiritual energy is unfamiliar to most of us, but we know the material energy. In this world, everything from our bodies to emotions, relationships, and things, everything is temporary and constantly changing. Matter or material energy includes things like money, possessions, social status, knowledge, skills, and relationships, and all of these decay and are lost due to the influence of time. In contrast, spiritual energy is eternal, unchanging, and all-potent. Its primary emotion is pure, unconditional love, which surges from the heart of the sweet absolute. Bhakti is the supreme energy in action. When love and service are directed toward our divine other, they no longer are temporary or self-serving, but become part of the eternal reality because we're connecting with spiritual energy. Unlike paths that focus on abstract mind control or impersonal liberation, Bhakti emphasizes the heart-to-heart connection with our divine friend. The self wants to love and be loved, and Bhakti addresses this deepest of existential needs we have. Just as the sun gives both light and heat, the sweet absolute expands spiritual energy, or Bhakti, to reach us with its light and warmth of divine love, which uplifts us beyond material limitations. It's this personal dimension of the divine and the possibility of a tangible relationship with our source that draws so many people from differing backgrounds and cultures to Bhakti. Thanks for spending time exploring Bhakti with me. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe to enable more seekers to discover Bhakti's universal messages. And that way you can also continue your own journey into the mystical yet practical world of Bhakti. In the next episode, we'll dive deeper into how Bhakti transforms suffering into happiness. Did this presentation raise any questions for you? Please let me know or share your reflections in the comments. Until next time, Swastiastu Vishvasya. May there be good fortune throughout the universe and for you.